your martial arts training should be teaching you how to deal with that response. How to not panic, all right? Your martial arts training should be teaching you how to, when you are in that moment of adrenaline, how you can still use your techniques and fight smart and not be afraid. Hello and welcome to episode 8 of this karate podcast. Today we're going to take a break from the kata diagrams and we're going to talk about bad karate. Not badass karate, Johnny Lawrence. No, we're going to talk about karate that is just bad. And not just karate here. This would apply the same to like Taekwondo, Krav Maga, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Hapkido, Aikido, Taekwondo, I already said that, Kung Fu, alright? But really, if you're just a martial arts instructor, I'm talking to you right now. So please give me your eyes, give me your ears for a few minutes. And let's just take a minute to do some introspection, okay? Really think about what it is that you do. We're going to focus today on teachers who say they practice practical self-defense, all right? Now, in the realm of practical self-defense, you got to ask yourself a couple questions. Number 1, how much do you believe in what you teach? Number 2, and how do you practice what you're teaching? The problem I'm addressing today is this huge lie that's prevalent in martial arts today. That lie is both stupid and dangerous. I've seen it in karate. I've also seen it in other martial arts schools I've been to. And mind you, I've been to a lot of different schools and trained with a lot of different people. Not just in karate, but Taekwondo, Hapkido, Jiu-Jitsu, Aikido. Like, if there's a popular martial art, by this time in my life, I've pretty much done it, okay? I'm not saying like I'm a black belt in every martial art. That'd be stupid. But, you know, a couple of years in Aikido, few years in Taekwondo, a couple of semesters in Hapkido. I did like 6 months of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like, just enough to get a good feel for these different schools, okay? And it doesn't matter what martial art you're doing. You always have like the same mentality where everyone believes that what they're teaching is totally awesome, totally badass. You're going to be able to get in a fight and be fine. But is that really the case? Okay? Listen. I'm going to get straight to the point here. If your school doesn't practice hitting people, your self-defense is only theoretical. Let me say that again. If your school doesn't practice hitting people, your self-defense is only theoretical. And theory is not going to save your ass if you get into a confrontation. Now, there are a lot of really lame excuses that you'll hear anywhere you go, particularly on the internet. I spend a lot of time in different Facebook groups just talking to people about martial arts because 2021, that's what you do, especially because of COVID. Now, we're going to cover like 4 of these really lame excuses and talk about why these really need to not be a thing. Okay? Some say, number 1 here, some say their techniques are too dangerous to practice. Okay. So this goes straight back to the theory. If your technique is theoretical, so is your self-defense. All right? To this excuse, I call total bullshit. Okay? Guns kill people. And guess what? They have training equipment where you can practice with a gun and actually use it. And if they can do that, you can figure out a way to train your empty-handed or maybe even with weapons, okay? Get helmets, get gloves, get whatever gear you need to hit somebody and do something. I've heard excuses, old school Okinawan karate does like eye gouges and wrist locks and elbow breaks and all this stuff. It's like, find something to practice on. Do what you can with a partner who's resisting. And then for that gritty, nasty, awesome stuff, find something to hit, okay? Don't do anything just in the air, please. You gotta have a feel for actually doing something for it to, be there. We need it. Go out and get some gear. Get a partner. Just practice. All right, next. Some say their martial arts are about character development or creating harmony. I'm looking at you, Aikido. Don't get me wrong, I did Aikido for 2 years, but Aikido is the epitome of theoretical self-defense. There's a lot of good theory in Aikido, and I've applied that to my karate training heavily. But the way that it's enforced is not self-defense. And if you're an Aikido enthusiast, you got to be open and willing to accept that, okay? Now, don't get me wrong here, okay? There's a lot of good for character development and creating harmony, especially in nowadays world where, the idea of self-defense is maybe in some cultures and some communities less practical. We live in a super cuddled environment where you wrap your kids in bubble wrap and send them off to school. But at the same time, don't advertise you're teaching self-defense if you're not hitting people and like really fighting people, resisting, trying to hit somebody who's trying to do the same to you. All right? Because that's just leading people on. It's a dangerous lie that gives people this false confidence that could get them really hurt or even killed. All right? If you're going to practice, like, you train for the thing you need to do. If you're training in the dojo with people who are willing to train with you, like, gently like that, your martial arts, it's not going to be there when you need it. Okay? All right. And that leads us into the next one. Line number 3. Some say you don't need to train with full contact because, and now this is like almost an exact quote from this guy I was arguing with, okay? Your instinct will kick in and all you need is fighting spirit. Okay. All right. Remember how we talked about those kids with the bubble wrap? You send them off to school because we live in a super coddled society. Most people don't naturally have the fighting spirit in them, okay? Let's talk about what really happens, okay? You had the fight or the flight response. Adrenaline hits you, and one of those two things kicks in. And yeah, there are badasses out there who that fight instinct kicks in, and they fight, and they win, and they do great. And then there's the rest of the people who panic, do stupid things, and get themselves hurt. Your martial arts training should be teaching you how to deal with that response. How to not panic, all right? Your martial arts training should be teaching you how to, when you are in that moment of adrenaline, how you can still use your techniques and fight smart and not be afraid and not run away. Running away is not bad, but if you have to fight, you have to fight. Okay? You can't just do techniques in the air and then say, oh yeah, my fighting instinct will kick in when I get in trouble. Because it might not. And then what? And then what? All right. That one, I feel really passionate about that last one. Like, you gotta fight, guys, okay? Put hands on people. Moving on. Moving on. I could rant about that all day. Moving on. Number 4. Now, this one's more of a joke than anything else. But like anytime you talk about self-defense, karate, martial arts, especially on the internet, there's always like that one guy. It's like, oh yeah? Yeah? I got a black belt in gun fu. Okay. Hold on there, buddy. Now, if you're in the martial arts community, you know this is mostly a joke, but there's also people who genuinely believe that like the answer to everything is just to pull a gun and shoot him. Let's talk about that. I'm not going to argue that a gun is going to beat, win out in a fist fight or against a knife. Like, I'm not arguing that. But what I am going to say is look at the context here, okay? Not every self-defense situation calls for use of a weapon. And there's a whole realm of moral and legal problems that come with drawing a weapon on somebody, particularly if that someone is threatening but also unarmed, okay? Look, you don't have to pull a gun if you're just being harassed by the drunk bum down on the corner, all right? If you just pull your gun and you shoot a guy, you're going to jail. Like, that's how that works. And the same thing goes for, in a more gray area, the same thing kind of goes for like domestic violence as well. Now, I'm not saying if you're like a lady and you feel threatened, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy a gun. But what I am saying is martial arts is not going to hurt either. Okay? Because when you draw a weapon, like a gun or a knife or a sword or whatever, you have to draw it with the intention that you're going to use it. And guns, they kill. Martial arts can, but it also gives you this flexibility, this wider spectrum of ways to de-escalate a situation without putting a hole in somebody. So just consider that for a moment, gun fu enthusiasts, because yeah, you can definitely always shoot somebody at least once. And then you might not ever get to again because you're in jail. Okay? So, is there anything else I want to say about gung fu? Yeah. One more thing. And this is just like the more generic argument here is that like martial arts, open-handed technique, self-defense, simple self-defense will always be on you, right? You can't always carry a gun. And if you do, you're going to have to practice drawing it, making sure the safety's off, making sure it's loaded. Same thing goes for like a taser or pepper spray. You have to fumble for it in your purse or on your keychain or whatever. Your hands are always just there. That's another thing to keep in mind. If you're confident with your hands, they will be faster than trying to draw out a weapon. Okay? So, gun fu, I'm not saying don't buy a gun. What I'm saying is, if you're in a situation where you're feeling like you probably need a weapon, like, yeah, get one. Also train martial arts. It's not one or the other. Do both. All right, guys. That is the lame-ass excuses I've heard people give me for not fighting full contact in karate or other martial art disciplines. So please, go out, put on some gloves, hit somebody, get your ass kicked. That's how you learn. And until next time, sayonara.